I'm going to talk today about continuous integration testing as part of continuous integration, mainly performance testing, and specifically using open source tools, one of them being JMeter. So kind of to get to know my crowd, can you by raise of hand tell me who is using JMeter in the crowd? Cool, good. Jenkins? Wow, okay. You beat JMeter. Other tools for performance testing. Which tool? Neoload. Others? LoadRunner, of course. How many people are using LoadRunner here? Okay, it's changing. Cool, good. So, yeah, and I'm going to talk about a project named Taurus. How many people know Taurus? Good crowd. Okay, so hopefully you'll learn something today that you'll be able to use right after the show. Okay. So performance testing is critical, right? And I'm not going to talk long about performance testing and kind of things that are very high up. I'm going to do a live demo, and going to show you how to use the tools, and basically going to try to prove to you that today, this day and age, performance testing is super easy, and you should do it on every commit or every build, and obviously pre-production, okay? And open source tools are sufficient enough to go about the job. But it's all about productivity. And testing is complicated. It's seriously complicated. It's not an afterthought. It's something that today you have to do. And if in the past testing was implemented pre-production, today, 2 years ago, then you did a build and you had to do testing. Today, you do a commit and you want to be able to do testing before the code actually goes in to repository. Okay, so if testing continues to be complicated, it will defeat the purpose, because at the end of the day, none of us want to do complicated stuff. We want at least, meaning if it's not the core of what we do, and testing is not the core. I don't know how many of you are test developers. I assume you are developers, DevOps, ops people, QA people maybe, but you want testing to just run, and if possible, to run many times, like hundreds times per day. So what are the challenges that we see today? Specifically, performance testing and JMeter. Being able to work with version control and incrementally build tests from commit to commit, that's a problem. Especially when you're using tools. Tools with GUI, it's very tough to, on every commit, on every change, to go back into the tool itself and actually, apply a change. So what happens? You do it every so often. Every so often, you reverse engineer your application through the GUI and run the test. But that's not the scalable way. Programmatically, how many developers are in the room? Okay, good mix. Who is using code? And with code, I mean also scripting and the various scripting code in their day-to-day life. Okay, that's almost everyone. So again, GUI versus code, the ability to programmatically build the test, it also helps when you want to incrementally build on every change. But using tools and GUI, it's always problematic. And the last thing is, at least from my experience, 10 years ago, there was LoadRunner. That's it. Mercury ruled the world. And today, when you go into an organization with over 50 developers, for example, you'll find more than one tool. Especially developers, they fall in love with a certain technology, and it's very tough to move them even to JMeter or Selenium or whatever. But the idea behind Taurus and what we're trying to kind of evangelize is you don't need to replace. You don't need to move to this or that tool. Anyone can bring their own tool. Okay? At the end of the day, you want to see a test running comprised out of many tools or many scripts built in various tools. For example, I want to, ideally, if I have an application or a build or a release, and I may want to run 20 different tests on it, some functional, some API, some performance, from different tools all at once. And ideally, I want to get pass, fail. Okay, so, but today, the ability to run, you still need to work and invest in each and every test and know each and every tool that you're running. And if someone else wrote the test for you, it becomes very challenging to actually understand what he or she wrote and then produce intelligence. But to be able to use a variety of tools as part of the holistic test, this is something that is tough to do today. And the last thing that I would like to address is, again, as I kind of hinted earlier, is parallel testing. Because currently, again, when you invest in each and every test, the test operation cannot scale well. You can do a handful of tests, maybe 2 handful of tests, but that's about it. How cool would it be if I can run an unlimited number of tests? When I'm saying unlimited, I'm talking hundreds of tests from a variety of tools that I built programmatically as if it was a single test. And all of these tests will end at the length of the longest test. And I'll get pass, fail, and all the stuff that I would want to build. So this is it. This is what you're about to see. You're about to see how we manage tests in version control and incrementally build them, use code, and not, I will build JMeter tests, comprehensive JMeter tests without opening JMeter, without installing JMeter, okay? And again, the framework goes beyond JMeter. Obviously, we've started, BlazeMeter, I'm not sure how many people know us. We've started as a JMeter shop and JMeter as a service kind of, and now we support Selenium, and you'll see Gatling and Locust and other tools. But because the idea is bring whatever tool you want and be able to run it. And obviously, the parallel testing aspect of things. Taurus is an open source project, Apache license, written in Python, that you can get it either in GitHub or at gettaurus.org. Okay? The team leader of Taurus is the guy that wrote the JMeter plugin project, if some of you are familiar with it. So, and the way to install Taurus is a one-liner. Pip install BCT. Taurus by itself, it's a command line tool. Okay? It works in your terminal. Okay? And you can instruct it in one line to run as many tests as you want from any tool that is supported, obviously. It further provides an abstraction layer on top of the tools. And I'm going to show this in the next slide. It will take you 10 minutes to get acquainted with Taurus and start running and building this into your continuous delivery pipeline. But this is how you start. You install it with pip install BZT. Okay, and I'm going to show some examples and very fast move into a demo. Sorry. How many of you know this GUI? Good, same number as before. So this is obviously JMeter. It provides everything. You can do whatever you want. You can go, you can lose your path with it very fast, but you always need to go to the GUI because the XML part of it, it's as complicated as the GUI. It's even far more complicated as the GUI. People, they try to programmatically print out the XML that represents a JMeter script, but it's still super complicated. And this is our notion of a test configuration. And I will soon tie the dots. Okay? So everything I'm about to show exists in 2 formats, YAML and JSON. And they are the same. And you can actually translate from YAML to JSON and JSON to YAML. YAML is human editable, right? You can actually read and understand. JSON is something that with any DSL, any language, you can easily create a JSON structure. And this is your test. This is your test configuration in which you can define which scripts to run, execution clauses, thresholds, provisioning clauses, whatever. Okay? But again, as part of your code. And therefore, you can maintain it as part of your code. So this is the hello world of Taurus. In this line, hopefully, you see that well. But in the red, you see execution, hold for 1 minute, and then start a scenario that includes 2 requests, HTTP Blaze demo and something else. This is a test. When you run it, it will run for 1 minute. A load test will run for 1 minute, hitting the 2 URLs with no sleep time in between for 1 thread. But you can now define more threads, ramp-up period, iterations maybe, throughput, step-up functions, meaning you can go all the way, but it's as easy as adding the simple URLs into the list. Okay? And again, YAML and JSON. Now, in my demo that I'm about to show, I won't use the hello world, right? It's kind of that kids game. I'm going to show a comprehensive test, recording like, I think it's a recording of a travel site where you choose location, choose airplanes, and then submit your credit card and go through the process. The JMeter script of the same is 500 lines of XML. The YAML is 40 lines. And this is a seriously comprehensive script. Okay. By the way, do you hear me all the way to the end? Yeah, good, fantastic. And can you see it? Wow. This is tough. Oh, lights down. That's a good one. You're a developer, right? Okay, good. Okay, so let's see what we see here. So this is a comprehensive YAML script, okay, that represents a JMX. And can we record it? Yes. Can we convert a JMX into YAML? Yes. Can we convert a YAML into JMX? Yes. Okay, so kind of know that you have all the flexibility. But what can you do with this YAML script? Everything you can do with JMeter, or close to everything you can do with JMeter, right? Some example, CSV data, okay? So this is it. You add a CSV data, you have a term for it, and as long as you have the file, you can use it and use the properties or the parameters that are in the file. Headers, global headers, transaction-specific headers. It can be a combination of an override of, so I can start with the global header and then override as I move into transactions. Simple text file. This is, and I showed this example in the hello world, so it can be as easy as simply the URL, or more complicated. I want the body, I want the method, and I want kind of request header. Everything you can build that you need to build an HTTP request is accessible for you using the simple YAML format. And you see inside also the use of variables, the $sign and the, I don't know how you call it, but the way you use variables in JMeter is also the same way you use it here. Okay? But everything is in a simple YAML file. So this is the use of variable. Cool. Once this is a text file, whether it's JSON, and obviously YAML is more version control friendly, this could be kept in your version control repository. Why is this important? Because the assumption is that within a single organization, there are many teams, many developers, all doing their thing, right, and committing their code. Now consider every test configuration, this is a test configuration at the end of the day, as an atomic test. And now I can build a holistic test out of these atomic tests. So I can take one test, the second test, the third test, put it in the same line or in the same configuration file, and it will basically compile into a single test, okay, just before I actually run it. So I'm changing the code. My colleague is changing and changing and changing. Jenkins, just before the build, fetches both script, both YAML files, compile them into a single test file. It takes about 5 seconds, and run the test. Okay? And this is from version control, and I can follow up and see which items did I add, which I removed. Okay, so again, the idea is you go in, use open source. Guess what? Don't replace. Taurus will support the existing open source tools you're using. So this is, we do not support everything, but we do support JMeter, Selenium, Gatling, the grinder, some tool named Apache, not Apache Bench, Ghost Bench, Locust, and we keep adding more and more tools. How do we deal with existing tools? So you can use the YAML, and by the way, when I'm writing a YAML, let's say I wanted to generate a JMeter file, that's cool. I'm using the executor named JMeter, but let's say I want to use Gatling. So I can use the same YAML and tell him, listen, don't generate JMeter, generate Gatling, okay, and the rest. So this is one aspect of it, but the second aspect is if I'm a DevOps, now I'm a DevOps, not a developer, and I'm kind of gathering all my developers' scripts, someone will say, listen, I want to give you my JMeter black box script. And I say, fine. Hand it over. And I can override. Again, I can provide an atomic test configuration that will override certain elements within the black box script. So I can say, enable this element and disable that element, override certain property, or do whatever. But the test configuration that overrides the black box script I just got, also, it's an atomic test script that I can either use or not later on. We talked about the current support. This is the cool thing about Tor. At least the way I look at it, this is kind of everything else make life easier. This is kind of awesome. If you know make, you know the old make that you can use to compile and everything, this is kind of the same notion. I'm bringing in all these test fraction, atomic test, however you may call it. It can be YAML, JSON, JMX, Scala if it's Gatling or whatever, and put it under the same line in my terminal. What will happen, as I mentioned, all of this will compile. Maybe Taurus will identify several engines because it will identify several script scenarios that you want to run in parallel. That's fine. Okay? Taurus will know how to put them all in parallel so they will execute as one, but one in parallel to the other. And again, I'm about to show all this very soon. Another way is, like this. BCT, Astrasics, and YAML, meaning everything in the file. So I'm in Jenkins. This is the way it's done. Get all the YAML files I need into a single folder, just run whatever it's in the folder. And if I want to add another JMeter script, I'm simply adding it at the same line. So this is a couple of snapshots from the actual console of Jenkins. And what I'm about to show you, I've installed Taurus. It took me 3 minutes. How many people here that use JMeter know which versions, meaning master the versions of the JMeter plugins, the various versions of JMeter plugins? One, maybe? No one, which makes sense. Oh. I formatted the question in such a way. So. And JMeter is a core. You can do nice thing without the plugins, but then you need the plugins to do kind of cool stuff, okay? And today, the plugin is a project which I think is as big as JMeter, or it's kind of the same scale. WebDriver in it, and various thread groups and reporting, etc. what Torus does, you don't need to have a JMeter installation or Gatling or Locust or all these tools, right? It understands what it needs to install and install it in real time, assuming it's not there already. So the installation that you see the end of the last line, downloading something, 2.13. Apparently, that before this presentation, I didn't have 2.13. So I remember to run it just before coming here, and it installed it on my laptop. Okay? And then it continues. It continued installing all of the relevant plugins that you need in order to run this. And obviously, this is not mandatory. You can say, listen, please use that tool distribution. Okay? It's also part of the syntax in the configuration. Okay, this is BlazeMeter. This is not open source, but this is provided as part of Torus free of charge. So you are able to, on every run of Torus, you're able to trend everything and see the results in a graphic dashboard, which is online. You can share it, you can print it, and all the cool stuff. Okay. Thresholds, meaning, in the past it was let's run a test and then dig into the reports and try to see if we can figure them out. Today it's all about thresholds, right? Success, fail, or anything in between. So there is a language to build thresholds. And again, the thresholds can come as a separate configuration file, right? I'm the DevOps. My colleague is the developer. I'm getting their test configuration, and I'm deciding on the threshold. And the language is, and I'll give a couple of examples, average response time of a transaction named purchase. If it's over 400 milliseconds for a period of 30 seconds, continue the test, but mark it as fail. Or stop the test and mark it as success. I don't know, whatever you want. But you have the language to actually dictate this. And it goes on all KPIs, performance KPIs. Needless to say, JUnit XML goes back into Jenkins. You can also use your favorite plugins to visualize your own set of reports. Okay, so what I'm about to show, and kind of something that will walk through the entire presentation, I'm going to record the YAML script, add a couple of thresholds, and show some cool stuff, and then also show this running in Jenkins. This is a live demo, so please bear with me. Okay. So this is a high resolution projector, so forgive me. To record the YAML, again, you can go to the Chrome Marketplace, install our plugin. That again, it's completely free of charge. That is basically able to, wait a minute, before my wife sent me an email and, oh, look at it. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for that. I'm human. Okay, so to get the recorder, that one. Sorry. Chrome Marketplace, you install it, and this is able to record whatever you do and provide you with either a JMeter script or a Torus script. So what I'll do is something kind of to be cool. So I'm emulating. This is kind of a very simple trick, right? It's kind of, I'm changing the user agent, so the server that I'm recording will actually think I'm an iPhone. Obviously, filter patterns and all that stuff, but what I'm doing now is simply recording, going to any tab, and simply how many times I went to Yahoo. Yeah. So this is kind of the iPhone layout, obviously, right? So I'm kind of recording semi-iPhone traffic. And you see the numbers of recorded requests kind of on top, and I can go to form, fill up forms, I can read my Gmail, I can go to my Facebook, meaning HTTPS, cookies, everything. Be careful because it will get recorded.
So even the data you enter?
I'm sorry?
Even the data you enter?
Everything that goes out, meaning again, this is not functional, this is backend. So anything that goes out through the browser gets recorded, cookies, everything. Okay, so this is my recording, right? And again, I can convert it to either JMX or JSON or Torus YAML. Okay, and I'm gonna go for Torus. Give me a second. Okay, so this is it. This is a dump, meaning a pure recording, too much information, right? Everything is there. So, and I could have kind of removed some of the stuff, but it's easier to do it in an editor. But this is a good way to start. Okay, but this is kind of a lot to absorb, but I wanted to show you the recording stuff. Okay. Next on the agenda. So this is my my computer, and this is Torus, right? Simple BCT. And what I'm about to do, let's see what I have in my folder. So I have 4 files: thresholds, YAML, BlazeDemo, YAML modifications, YAML, and my own special configuration. I'm going to remove all the artifact folders just so it will be cleaner. Cool. Okay, it's a bit cleaner now. And also I have the location CSV I mentioned. I'm guessing one of the files is using a JMX here. Maybe not, I don't know. But let's see what I'm about to run. So one, yeah, I see the JMX there. BlazeDemo.yaml. That's the file that I kind of used in the PowerPoint with the location CSV and the various variables and everything, right? And what I have here more. So let's see more thresholds. That's a cool thing. I forgot about it. Okay, in the thresholds, I actually have several clauses here. They don't need to be in the same file, as long as they're in the same line. All the files are in the same line. So I'm using the thresholds, the 3 thresholds, if you go over something and something, and the execution clauses. I'm instructing Torus to run 2 scenarios in parallel. One is BlazeDemo. The other is existing. They are not in these files, in this file. They are in other files. Okay, but the execution clause is here. Run 2 scenarios in parallel. Let's see what else I have here. Modifications. In modifications YAML, I'm referencing BlazeDemo JMX, which is a JMeter script, and I'm disabling some element there. Okay? I also have an execution clause here, by the way, because I'm able to run this script as is. It will always take the last execution clause. It will override, override, override until the last execution clause. Okay? So let's say I'm getting my files from my developers, and they have their own execution clause because they've run the tests, and they like to run it under 1 thread for 1 second. Guess what? I want to run it under 1,000 threads and maybe for 4 minutes and kind of scale it up. Okay? Cool. So let's see what else here. Okay, that's it. That's about it. What I'm about, just before I'm going to go in, dive into that, I'm actually going to run the hello world, which is very simple. The thing that I show you, it's kind of It's BZT, hello world YAML. So assuming I have a good internet connection here, because I'm actually going to I'm running a load test from my own PC. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why it took some time. Probably low internet connection. But this is basically the Taurus GUI. Some would say, wow. Some would say, what? I won't tell you but this is kind of what you get on your console. And I'm running this, and I'm a developer, and I want to, run test, and this is good enough for me, okay? Because my laptop is good enough for me. So this is kind of, and I see one engine, because you see 79, 80% of one test that is running. Let's kill it. Now I'm going to go hard. 1 second. So this was the hello world, very small thing. Now I'm going to do BZT, everything YAML. It's there. 1 second. So, again, clear, BZT, everything YAML. Okay. So again, apologies, need some patience because apparently the internet connectivity is a bit slow. What it did find, if you look at the top, it did find BlazeDemo YAML, BZA Alon YAML, modification YAML, and threshold YAML. So it found 4 YAML files that are being compiled right now. You have a link to a graphical report. You see it here. I'm going to show it soon enough after the test. Actually, and then you see the same kind of GUI you saw earlier. But this is more complicated. So I'll tell you soon why. Okay, so here I have several transactions: purchase, homepage, confirmation, homepage again, probably a different one that it doesn't go into the GUI. I get the error rates, I get the latency, the response time, everything. If I were to have thresholds meeting, I'll soon change some thresholds so we can actually see something fail. And you see 2 processes running in parallel, because whatever it was there, it identified that you have 2 scenarios that need to run in parallel. Actually, it goes back to the clause of 2 scenarios that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's nice. It will take some time. It will end. What I'm about to do is change the threshold. So I'm going to put it kind of so it will fail for sure. So this time, if something goes over for 3 seconds, 3 seconds should be fast. I'm going to run it again. While it's running, I'm going to open the GUI. Sorry for the internet. You can actually test your CSS loading. Okay, that should be faster. So this is running. You see the actual green. This is the actual test running. Okay, it just started. And these are the same. Meaning what you see here and what you see here are practically the same. Only here you can go and do some drill down, look at the various transactions, various KPIs, kind of more graphical, more detailed reporting. Okay, and the test has ended. It ended very fast because probably it met the threshold. Let's do it again. How will we time? Good.
Question.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, yes.
You run the Lotus Sophia website as well. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
How does that does this integrate with Lotus Sophia?
Taurus, no. But actually, Lotus Sophia is already integrated into BlazeMeter. So whatever you get from Lotus Sophia, you get also in BlazeMeter. So look very fast here because it will take 3 seconds. 2, 3, red, meaning failed, average, something, test ended. Cool. Last part is, obviously, we are here in Jenkins, so you ask yourself, how come? Okay. So this is, again, a build. Now, it's as easy, meaning no plugins, no nothing. Just, meaning obviously we have a plugin and you can feel free to use it, but it's as easy as, so do some environment thing, but run BCT on YAML with console disabled because you don't want to see all these bars in the Jenkins, console. And use the JUnit XML to whatever you want to use it. Obviously, JTLs are also generated. So if you're like performance plugin, you can also do your cool things in it. This is how you run Taurus from Jenkins. Why don't we run it? So, and it will break because I did the threshold thing. It runs. And it runs as part of Jenkins under the Jenkins account in the Jenkins folder and everything. And I showed you the slide earlier that if Jenkins doesn't have JMeter or doesn't have the latest version of JMeter or the JMeter plugin, it will install it. But it's running. You won't see any results, meaning any fancy reports here. Obviously, when you go to that link in a different tab, this should take us directly to the running build. So I can actually monitor the build while it runs. And obviously, once it ends and Jenkins does its stuff, whatever it is, for example, as I mentioned, the threshold, it broke the build. I go in and I see the Taurus demo. Average response time of confirmation, was over 300 milliseconds for over 3 seconds. This was the reason why I'm being wake up at night and need to deal with this stuff. And by the way, so a couple of things that I haven't kind of went through fast. Let's look at the folder. Sorry. You see all these dates, folder dates, which dated now. Let's go into one of them. So you have here all of the artifacts that Taurus created, including the JMX or the Scala file or whatever that was created as a result from the configurations. You see all the configuration files that were used to create this test. And the one thing which is super important is something, effective.yaml. Meaning at the end of the day, you can build the test with one line. but Torus translates it to all of the properties that are currently available. So if we look at the effective YAML, we see a very long YAML file that you will care less about it until something goes wrong, because then you can go into the artifact directory and figure out what went wrong. Okay? You get a folder each and every time, and this folder, if you instruct it to, is stored in a cloud repository where you can always go back, download, and run again. You can compare between test runs and do all the fancy stuff. Let's see if I have anything else here. Yeah, one cool thing that I won't show it. You'll need to believe me. So tough, huh? I'm generating these JMXs, whatever, according to configuration files, right? And I want to debug it. It's very tough. You know, maybe I do remember how to do it. Let's see. Sorry. I'll try. Please don't kill me if I won't succeed. BCT, hello. I think it's minus GUI. Hello, old YAML. Let's see, please. Okay, if I was wrong, it would have notified me already. Give it a second. Yeah, cool. Okay, so what I just did is I ran Torus, but I told him, listen, open the JMeter GUI and don't run the test. So I can actually look at the JMX file that was created as a result. And I can run it here. I can do, and it will run in Torus. Torus is not aware that I just paused the execution. Okay? So enable, and I'm doing run. So soon you'll see some green stuff, sometimes red, but this is the JMX running, and I can debug it and see what's going on. Was this my intention? If yes, fine, I can close it and run it without the minus GUI. But this is a way to debug my script. And everything else works in the parallel. You get the report, you get everything. I can run it again and again and again and again. I will constantly see the results behind and also on the website. There are many more cool stuff. Again, the idea behind Torus is to make your life simple, support any form of open source testing tool running in parallel as if it was a single test, communicating back into the various CI tools. We'll soon add integration into APM tools, all of them, okay, including proprietary. So you'll be able to correlate data from the performance and the APM data. Obviously, to know if something goes wrong, then what was the status of my system, including CloudWatch, and this is kind of the project. This is the scope of the project. So I think this is kind of, and I will allow room for question if you have any. But where is it? Let's do play. So kind of version control, programmatic testing, version control for incremental testing, code versus GUI to do it programmatically, and kind of for the developers, and also not even developers, but for the DevOps. Instead of always creating your test, write pieces of code, supporting all tools and running everything in parallel as if it was one. So this is it. Questions? Thank you very much.